Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Walk and Talk. I'm your host, Tony Handsome. I really appreciate all the love and support that's been pouring out from the viewers. It means a lot. I really do appreciate it. A lot of you left comments, personal DMs, questions. It means a lot. I'll pick up where I left off on the last episode and definitely get into some of those comments and questions. As always, I'm your host, Tony Handsome, and this is Corruption Connection. So a lot of you guys have reached out and were curious in regards to me releasing the pictures and stuff. And I'm definitely gonna release some, but we all know how YouTube is. They have their rules and restrictions, so some of the pictures I have are extremely graphic. Space cases, that's people getting stuck between the trains, dismemberments, shootings, stabbings, all that stuff. Unfortunately, because of YouTube's guidelines, I won't be able to release them, but sooner than later I will. I'll find a way to get them to you viewers, without a doubt. I wanted to touch a little bit on my first arrest. I know I have mentioned in the last episode, and a couple of you viewers have messaged me on the side. They were curious about it, so I'll be addressing that right now. Like I said, when I came out, there was a program called Impact. And basically what Impact was, it was an initiative to arrest. That's it. That was our job. Collar, 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 all day, all night. That's all they wanted from us, activity. Most of the guys in the unit, especially the proactive ones, could get 6 to 10 collars a month. The majority of us have averaged about 4, 5 arrests a month. But that was the quote-unquote quota that doesn't exist. Oh, there's a quota, all right. They won't admit it, but there is. So on my first arrest, I was assigned a senior officer as a partner. We headed for Jamaica Center, Parsons Archer, where the E and J line stop. So if anybody's ever been there to Jamaica Center, you know that that's the last stop on the train hub, where the trains wait before they actually make their departure throughout New York City, throughout the New York City subway system. So we used to go there and we would look for unsafe riders. And what's unsafe riding is passing between the train cars while the train is moving, and at that time it was when the train was stopped. Very controversial. Although definitely a controversial topic. It was what they wanted. It was what we were assigned to do, and it's what I did. So the senior officer and I approached someone who walked between the train cars. We pulled them off, we sit them down, asked them for their ID. They produced their ID, no problem. He was 19 years old. He said he was on his way to work. Okay. After a little while on the street, you soon develop the sense that everyone's lying to you. So I kind of knew something was wrong with this kid. I knew he wasn't going to work. Lo and behold, he did have a warrant. It was for a violent crime. It was assault in the 2nd degree. I don't remember the exact details of what he did, but he was definitely wanted for a serious crime. If you don't already have that sense from being on the street, you quickly develop it being a cop. I knew he was lying to me. And the warrant that was produced showed that too. So we wound up taking him down to Queens Central Bookings, processing him, and putting him through the system. Not a major arrest, but it put me on the board, gave me an idea how to do the paperwork and get familiar and all that kind of stuff with the system and the process. So that's what I did, that's where I started. A few months later though, I would make an arrest that would have a significant impact on a few different people's lives, especially the life of a 14-year-old. It all started with him walking through the emergency exit of the subway system without paying. He decided he was going to walk through amongst the crowd of people exiting the subway system, so he was easily noticeable. As I got closer though, I didn't see what he had in his hand. He had a big towel wrapped around his hand, almost like young Vito Corleone in Godfather Part 2. And he was nonchalantly walking with this, and I asked him, "What's that?" And he kind of just shrugged his shoulders, like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "What's in your hand?" So as he raised his hand up, I stopped it immediately, because in my head I was thinking a gun, shotgun, something big that he wanted to cover up, that he didn't want anybody to see and obviously slip through the train system with. So as he raised his arm, I put my arm up to immediately stop it. I grabbed hold of the towel and immediately felt a hard object. In my mind, it was racing. I thought it was a gun, a shotgun, or some kind of long weapon, and it turned out it was a samurai sword. So I asked him what he was doing, walking around with a samurai sword. He said he just bought it. So what do you need a samurai sword for? Where'd you buy it? So I immediately put the cuffs on him, started asking him all the questions, the who, what, where, when, and why. Where'd you get it? Why do you have this? Where are you going with it? At first he was reluctant to say. You know, the initial arrest was for TOS, theft of service, and criminal possession of a weapon. So I take him back to the precinct and I ask him, you know, we get him in the room, the juvenile room. We start talking to him, parents come down, or in this case, social worker. And he tells me that he bought this sword because he just got separated from his little brother. And I said, separated from your little brother in what way? Well, his mom was an alcoholic and a drug addict. So the mom's boyfriend was abusing both of those kids to the point where CPS got called. And CPS decided that the house was deemed no longer safe for those two children, him and his little brother, which I think his brother was about a year old or 2 years old, something like that. It was the only family that this kid knew. You can imagine with a mother strung out on drugs, him and his brother were probably the only two people that had each. They were probably the only people that had each other in this world. So CPS wound up getting a hold of this case of two kids being abused. Long story short, they investigated and they wound up separating him and his brother. And as you can imagine, for any 14-year-old to be separated from your little brother, you know, I think that his little brother was 1 or 2 years old, something like that, very young. You know, it was so detrimental to this kid that he felt that he needed to do something, and he needed to do something quick in order to change the circumstances.
Hey everyone, I want to take this time to wish everyone a happy holiday and a Merry Christmas. If you're enjoying this video, please hit the thumbs up button below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Now let's get back to Corruption Connection.
So he concocted an idea to go down to Jamaica Avenue, buy a samurai sword, go back to his house, and kill his stepfather. He lived in the Rockaways, so if anybody knows, he had to take a bus and a train to get back home. He took the bus all the way from the Rockaways, hopped on the train, went to South Jamaica, bought the sword, decided to take the train back to the Rockaways to kill this man. In his head, killing this guy, eliminating this guy, would essentially rid him of this problem and reunite him and his little brother. So I asked him, I said, so then what? Let's say you get the sword, you go home, your mother gets in the way. He stopped me. He looked at me dead in the face and was like, nobody's gonna stop me from being with my younger brother, not even my mother. That just led me to believe that he was ready to kill everyone. Crazy story, right? This casino I'm in right now is the Tropicana. One of the oldest casinos on the Strip, still standing. Built in 1957 on the corner of what was known then as Barn Road and Las Vegas Boulevard, has now been changed to Tropicana Avenue and Las Vegas Boulevard. This hotel has a long shadowy history of involvement with organized crime and the mob. The hotel's first operator was a guy by the name of
Philip Dandy Phil Castell.
Longtime associate of organized crime. When legendary mob figure Frank Costello was shot in the head, it was said he was in possession of the Tropicana's earning figures, and that was when Castell was in charge. And later on in the 1970s, Joe Augusto, he was the point man for the Kansas City mob.
Gentlemen, the majority of the people in Nevada lives off the gaming interest, and they do that with pride, with humbleness. And we are happy to serve in whatever capacity we may be in the show business, whatever capacity as a waitress, or as a waitress, or as a bus boy, to serve this industry because it's our bread and butter. You know, let's not knock it, because it's the only survival we do have. Let's not elect people which they feel they are as holy as a God, when they are not as holy as God, when they are the first people where don't rule and regulation and no law applies to them, however they have been appointed only as political favor to them, for their political ambition, whatever the case might be. Let's pass law where we can regulate those people. Let's not regulate the gangster come as the only them. Let's regulate them too. So we have a full view over the consequence which those people can cause to the state of Nevada.
Augusto would get caught skimming profits out of here. He actually agreed to testify for the FBI, but unfortunately he died while the investigation was still going on. It was a huge blow to the government's case, trying to uncover the skimming operation that the mob had here. The whole government operation was late 70s, early 80s. During the 1980s, major corporations got a hold of the Tropicana, changing ownership many times. Today it's owned by Bally's Corporation, who actually recently leased the land in May of 2023 this year in order to build a stadium for the Oakland A's, who will be moving to Las Vegas. The stadium is expected to be completed in January of 2028. Going forward, I would see things like that all the time. People with weapons entering the subway system just with complete disregard. It's kind of stupid when you know you're armed with a gun or a knife and you jump a turnstile or walk through the emergency exit. It really makes no sense whatsoever, but sometimes these criminals are not too smart, you know? Yes, on more than one occasion. I mean, being born and raised in New York City and taking the subway system my whole life, I was bound to run into somebody. One particular day when I was working at a Transit District 20, which is in Queens, it covers 6 different precincts. We had a call for a robbery and a bunch of kids ran into the subway system that fit the description. So when they ran in, me and my partner ran down. We actually caught one of them. As we're bringing him up for a lineup, I actually ran into one of my friends I went to college with. We connected eyes, looked at each other, kind of just gave each other a nod. And then later on, we texted each other and we're like, oh my God, that's crazy. I can't believe you became a cop, et cetera, but you know. More than you can imagine. There's thousands of people that live in the New York City subway system underground. There's actually intricate cities down there. So we would run into people all the time. People that actually live in the tunnel. On the side of the tracks, they just become accustomed to the rats, the noise, the dirt, which is where they live. So yeah, all the time. I mean, there's numerous stories of people getting run over by the train, falling onto the tracks, and you wonder how they get there. The majority that don't want to live on the streets, they find a place in the New York City subway system in one of those tunnels. There's a lot of abandoned tunnels as well. And you would just see people pop out of there all the time. Again, I want to thank everybody for watching. Keep the questions and comments coming. Tune in next time as I tell the story of 2 Bronx drug dealers who thought it was a good idea to set up shop at the Woodhaven Boulevard subway stop. As always, I'm your host, Tony Handsome, and this is Corruption Connection.
Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video, please press the like button below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.